My name is Ginny, also known as 2/3 Lotus, everywhere on the internet. This clip is part of my series, The Poets of Twitch, where I analyze my viewers' writing live on stream. Nothing has been edited out, so you're seeing this exactly as streamed with all of the imperfections and tangents that come with being live. If you want to catch me live or want more information, check out the description. Otherwise, enjoy some excellent writing.
And it's by Highcallibrr. And Highcallibrr, you gave me no questions, which I must scold you for, but is what it is. Highcallibrr. We can always fix our sleeping routines, don't worry. Yeah, absolutely. And mine normally is pretty good. It's just been like the last few days has kind of sucked. And my voice is very tired from doing karaoke 2 days ago, so I'm just kind of letting the vocal fry live its best life today, I think. And you get the not very feminine Ginny today. Here is an untitled work by Highcallibrr. Stars never touch, but never wonder. Seas never think what could be under me. I wonder if our lips could ever meet and think to walk what separates us. The sea. And I'd run all the waters with my hands through my wrists, though my wrists be so weak after the days I spent writing letters to the sky, to make the clouds less heavy, that I could clear away through rainy days, that make oceans out of dry lands. And I'd run through your hair with my hands, that I could feel the stars in my fingers. An untitled poem by Highcallibrr. Right off the bat, I like how we have each of these big words, big symbols, whatever metaphors used multiple times. The stars, the stars, the seas, the seas. It just feels like everything is very interconnected and calling back on itself, which is fun. Even rain and dry, hands and hands, or wrists and hands, kind of, right? So I like this. Oh yeah, hands. Okay, so what do you think about the symbols? Hi, Galbert. Because I forgot to make the poem bad, as my friend told me. You forgot to make it bad. I like that description. Drowning Devil, welcome in. How are you? Read this again. Stars never touch, but never wonder. Seas never think what could be under me. I wonder if our lips could ever meet and think to walk what separates us, the sea. And I'd run all the waters with my hands, though my wrists be so weak after the days I spent writing letters to the sky, to make the clouds less heavy, that I could clear away through rainy days, that make oceans out of dry lands. And I'd run through your hair with my hands, that I could feel the stars in my fingers. Young Solina, I love how it's very into the universe. Yeah, it feels at least planetary, across oceans, across lands, but then yeah, to the stars, and these big sort of almost universal symbols we think about elemental things. Drowning Devil, I'm good. I'm good. I'm good twice. That means you're like double good, not doing much really. Sounds good. To make the clouds less heavy is cool. Yeah. I didn't pin the poem. You are so right. That's funny and silly of me. It's not much use to pin a message if you don't pin the message. You're translating it all into French and I can't stop you? Yeah, awesome. Translation seems like a really fun thing. There are multiple people in our community who do translation stuff, including Young Selena. And like Ray and Raw and all these people. So translating is cool, and translating is probably really good for you, I would imagine, as a monolingual person. So I felt you really just like writing in English. You should try writing in Dutch. That'd be interesting, unless you don't want to. So we have these recurring symbols in the poem, a few big ones. First, I would say, first word, the stars, and the stars come back at the end. And we have seas and sea and ocean and even waters, and is there water again somewhere? I don't think so. And hands. Run the waters with my hands. Run through your hair with my hands. And the fingers as well, the wrists. A lot of this stuff that's really related to the hands, the wrists, these tactile implements that we all have on the end of our arms. And then also ideas about water. There's a few other things too. Lips, that's only mentioned once. You have the sky, the clouds, the rain. Maybe this is something slightly different. It's kind of what's going on here. A few big ideas. Very dense, packed into these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 lines. 12 lines. Do we have 10 syllables in a line? Stars never touch, but never wonder, sees, never think what could be under me. I wonder if our lips could ever meet. And 10. Think to walk what separates us, the sea, and I'd run all the waters with my hands. So far, so good. Though my wrists be so weak after thee. Oh, that's 9. Though my wrists be so weak after the days I spent writing letters to the sky. 10. To make the clouds less heavy, that I. 9. Okay, so it kind of breaks down at the end. It felt consistent. Matthew Di Loretto, you say beautiful. I agree, it is beautiful. And talking about learning languages. I have so many languages I want to learn. ChatGPT lied to you, Highcallibrr? How could it be? ChatGPT, the perfect paragon of intelligence that makes no faults, was wrong. What a tragedy. I want to learn mutually intelligible languages. Then just do like all the Eastern European stuff. All the Baltic languages. They're like different enough that they're all different languages, but they all share things. And that seems like it'd be fun. ChatGPT, kind of my best friend, kind of. So yeah, ChatGPT is like very helpful. Uh, I'm not, I'm not very anti AI. Y'all, y'all will find ChatGPT is like really helpful as a tool. I think so. ChatGPT. I mean, what do y'all think about it as artists, as writers? Because I I don't have much of an issue with this. I think I never use this artistically. I am not. I don't use ChatGPT artistically because I think it's bad. I also feel it's a long way from being good. I don't have an interest in this helping me in writing. ChatGPT is very bad at writing. It's good at sounding like intelligible. It's not good at creative writing. Uh, Now, generative AI in terms of art is a sort of interesting issue, right? You say drowning devil. Generative AI, it's awful. I'm very anti AI. And young Celine is asking why. So I think the main thing is the argument that generative AI like kills jobs of artists, kills jobs, kind of kills art. Which is a bad thing, I would say. Like replacing. I mean, but I don't think it's the AI that I have fault with. I have fault with people who are. I don't know. So, first of all, I don't think generative art looks good yet. uh, it doesn't look good. I see generative art usually in really low quality advertisements on Grindr because it's easier for those people to just use an AI image than a stock image. Um, and usually it's just for like cheap, kind of mass produced slop. And I do think this is not an issue yet, in my opinion. And you're a neo Luddite sometimes. I'm very pro AI, but because I'm a programmer, definitely difficult to use well. You can use it effectively. It's life changing technology. Yeah, it's really beneficial things about it. It's really helpful. Steals people's work and what it produces isn't even that good. Well, that's the thing. Like, my thing is, it's not often stealing people's work because it's not good enough to steal people's work yet. Except by people who probably aren't paying artists anyway and just also use it because they're lazy. Besides the elemental impacts, it robs of creativity and is usually poorly used to undermine the labor impacts in the creative industry. Yeah. I just don't think it does it on a very large scale. Very much a neo-Luddite. Sure, that's fair. It's wrong often. Yeah, it sucks. It spams the web. That's annoying. I agree with that. And our data is being used way more. Yeah, this is I think one of the things with uh, AI is data. And people so this is sort of maybe the bigger issue in some way about art is like the you're stealing my art to train AI. You're stealing my art. And it's my art, and the AI art looks a lot like my art, and so you're evil. This is kind of true. Also, you put your art on the internet. You clicked the terms of service, so it's not stealing. Like you can people are consenting to this and then getting mad about it. Now the issue is kind of like it's really hard to grow as an artist without putting your stuff online. Online is the main sphere, and that's where this becomes like a difficult trade-off for the artist. This doesn't, I don't care about this because I don't hold much ownership over my art. I don't care. The way people are using it for the most part is very bad, but the technology itself is ripe for creative use. Check out Demo Scene art. They're artists using generative AI in genuinely incredible ways. Yes, it's a tool, and I think it will become part of of people's artistic toolkits. The camera didn't kill the painter. Also, if it's used for decision making, who's responsible for these decisions? Yeah, I mean, like, but I don't like. It's not you. So here's the thing. Morally, if I like ask AI, should I like kill someone? um, I'm still acting on like the moral wrong. I think if I kill someone, if AI tells me to, and and then like yeah, and if it's used for like policy decisions and stuff, I mean like right now I don't think we do. Uh, and if we do, it's on the people implementing it. Like it's a tool again. If someone uses a knife to kill someone, you don't blame the knife. That's I don't find that much of a question. Um, this is fun. Sorry, we're totally derailed from the poem. I know we like just started talking about it. They're taking Dropbox files, Google Drive files, etc. Yeah, but that's not even fault of the AI. So that's the thing with the data. AI is not stealing. It's usually the company taking from your drive, like, and this is stealing. But it's like the company in between. They're just buying it. They're buying what's on the market. We exist within capitalism. People are not consenting to getting their shit stolen just because they show it to people online. Well, the thing is, if you consented to a terms of service, you are. And if you don't consent, then because of that, like that's why people boycott like platforms and stuff. That's why people don't use it. And in the end, it's a bit of a we live in society argument. You don't want to expose your data. You can't truly participate in general. Well, I don't think that's true either. I think, well, yeah, you have to like in some way expose your data. That's just like how life works. Um, but also, there are a lot of other ways to share and spread your art and find community. But yeah, I find it's just something abused, but like the tool is not bad. And hey, Dew on the Grass, how's it going? Well, you kind of make the knife policy based on its stabby potential, not the culinary potential. Uh, right. But like people can have knives. Like I don't know what policy. Uh, like we have lots of things you can do bad with, and it's I don't know. Policy's hard. The game is rigged, but it's the only game in town. I love the corporations and profiteers. Really love the tool. Exactly. That's where I am. Sure, but regardless of who takes it or which TOS I sign, it's unethical business. If it's on an ethical business, you don't blame AI. Don't blame AI. Blame the unethical business people. We make gun policy based on culinary potential. No one is saying it's the AI's fault. It is what's being used to do shitty things. Yeah. So I think saying like I don't like generative AI is silly. It's finding ways to speak out against corporations and things you disagree with. We don't let knives in festivals, etc. We put limits on their use. Same for AI. Don't blame AI. Blame the AI folks. Yeah, and you have to look at like the practical ways that AI might be hurting people right now. And I don't think as of right now it's causing a lot of harm. I think it has great potential to cause harm. Also, I'm tired of the stupid arguments being made by me or by people online. I also go back and forth on these thoughts a lot. Sometimes I like it less. People online. Okay. Yep. Okay. Tangent over. Tangent over. Let's talk about the poem. Well, yeah, we talked for 5 minutes about a poem and then took a big tangent on AI. I got distracted, and then now we're circling back as it should be. Stars never touch, but never wonder. Seas never think what could be under me. I wonder if our lips could ever meet and think to walk what separates us. So we have a subject and an object, me and you. I run all the way to the waters with my hands through my wrists. With my hands, though my wrists be so weak after the days spent writing letters to the sky, to make the clouds less heavy, that I could clear away through rainy days, that make oceans out of dry lands, and I'd run through your hair with my hands, that I could feel the stars in my fingers. So let's talk about the stars. Stars never touch, but never wonder. Now, touch. We're probably not talking about actual stars. You know, we feel them in someone's hair. But there's some really interesting parallel things going on. Really interesting. Stars never touch, but never wonder. And then I wonder if our lips could ever meet. So we have, as opposed to the stars wondering and touching, we have me, or I, the subject, wondering about touching, probably touching. I mean, they have the potential to touch others. So you have this interesting thing. Stars, they have a distance, and they're these like uncaring things in the sky. And I am different from the stars. I, the subject. And I think this is just how we are characterizing me and the stars. Me wondering the potential to touch. Stars not wondering, never touching. Seas also never think. So I am in some way different from all of this. Lotus, are you doing okay though? You look a little bit tired today. Part of it is that my voice is dead. Do I look tired? Maybe. I could be tired. It's possible. It's probably my fault for like talking about the AI stuff and going on a tangent. It's not the most helpful thing to enjoying myself. And but yeah, I'm okay. I'm maybe a little tired. I lost a follower. It's kind of funny. Maybe it's a bot. Maybe someone doesn't like my AI takes. I'm not mad about that though. That's just funny. Not tired, but not taking bullshit. Like, yeah, I mean, I also talked about it, so it was like kind of my fault. So I'm like silly. The bot thought it was insensitive. What bot? Bot thought it was insensitive. Oh, yeah. It was probably a bot, but I like the idea of speaking my mind and people not having it and unfollowing me. That's how it should be, right? So, I think to walk. I wonder if our lips could ever meet and think to walk what separates us. So we set up this immediate sort of dichotomy, this difference, this opposition of the subject thinking and wondering, and also walking, right? Walking on the sea, which is cool. Walking on the sea. Walk what separates us, the sea. So I am fundamentally unlike that which separates me from you. Kind of about the subject's relation to the space between them and the object, which is a cool way to look at a relationship. We usually think about, oh, how do I relate to this person? How does this person relate to me? But it's how am I relating to the fact of distance, which is cool. And I'd run all the waters with my hands, though my wrists be so weak. Oh, maybe I am tired. After the days I spent writing letters to the sky to make the clouds less heavy, and that I could clear away through rainy days that make oceans of dry lands. So, rainy days that make oceans of dry lands. We have the ocean kind of established as something of distance. The ocean that separates us is distance. And it is rainy days that create oceans. It is rainy days that create distance between. Spent days writing letters. Seems like lately a lot of your poetry, Highcallibrr, talks about your relation to your writing. And we write to do what? To the sky to make the clouds less heavy, to have them dissipate, so that there will not be rainy days. Y'all, what's a rainy day? What does this symbolize? I think, not trying to trick you, it's the obvious one. This reminds you of Becca Faye's last poem. It was also about a loved one who seemed very close, but like at a distance, and the distance disappears. Yeah, I wonder... I don't find that the distance disappears in this poem. At least there's nothing yet that's indicated to me. There's a desire. There's a desire to run toward them, to walk on the water, to, in a sense, do the impossible to reach this person. Right? I'd run all the waters. This is, as a metaphor, impossible. To walk around on water. Rainy day being somber. Getting cozy inside, biking in the rain, autumn. Yeah, those are a few things. I think the big one probably is 1, being inside, 2, being somber. You know, save it for a rainy day. Save it for when you'll be cooped up and kind of less able to do things and live life, whatever. A rainy day has a solitude to it. Can't really go outside. Or you don't want to as much. And that aligns with like the idea of the water being the distance and all of that. But this is just kind of like what happens on a rainy day. And I think the big thing is that it is somber. It is sad. Like we talk about having a rainy day, having a rain cloud over us, and it's a sad thing. Like, it's emotion. That's like the big rainy day thing, I think. And there is a coziness to it, but it's cold. It's against the cold. It's in spite of the cold. So, writing letters to the sky to make the clouds less heavy, that I could clear away through rainy days, that make oceans out of dry lands. So perhaps writing, I mean, we often see writing as writers as release, as a healthy thing that helps us. And that could be this, the writing, the poetry, speaking to one's own writing and how it helps one become more alive, become more human in a way, become happier. Because it is sadness and like a personal struggling that is going to create distance between one and another person. Feeling blue usually doesn't help you love others. And so, we write, we do something to feel better, and perhaps that's speaking to poetry. Writing letters to the sky could in a way be a description of poetry, at least for some. Writing that will never be heard. Certainly not by the object, by the other person. But I think a lot of poets think about writing their work and it goes off into ephemera, and then maybe some people read it, maybe some people don't, and it just dissipates into the clouds. But of course, no one has to receive the letter, right? This is a non-received letter, because what it does is affect I could clear away through rainy days. And I'd run through your hair with my hands, that I could feel the stars in my fingers. I'd run all the waters with my hands, I'd run through your hair with my hands. These are very parallel lines, very similar. And I do think, running on the water is impossible. It feels to me. Running through your hair, I would. It's hypothetical with my hands that I could feel the stars. Those things of distance, reminding us that there is a great space that separates these two people. And so maybe there's a closeness in one's imagination to this person, but I find it to be a deeply distant poem. And using stars and oceans for scale is great, right? Stars, it's light years. Fundamentally non-traversable, at least right now. And oceans, by the individual, potentially, very possibly, dangerously traversable, but deeply unlikely as well. By foot, impossible. And so my first thought is that this poem is kind of remains distant. Slash, shall you say write-only documents? Great line. Classic for one of your poems. And I'm going to come back. We'll talk more about this in a minute. I'm going to run a little ad. See if I can get some energy back. Do some self-care. That's what I'm going to do. Figure out how I can have a little more energy when I come back to stream. See you in 2 minutes. Welcome back. I'm still Ginny. We are still reading a poem by Highcallibrr. And, let's see. Yeah, stolen from Pratchett stylish fail. Ah, it's funny. Don't tell people that your lines are stolen. But also, um, we all steal art as humans. It's kind of funny. Just kind of pointing toward the conversation earlier. There's no ads, but okay. Good for you. Ads run for some people, they don't for others. Some people probably got them. About all those bureaucratic reports that get written, yes. Sometimes not everyone gets ads, yeah. The Dutch tax office wants to add AI to their workflow. Use it to write them and summarize them. That's not, probably not amazing. Summarizing is okay, as long as that doesn't kind of get used as, an official document, right? Lotus, I have some questions. May I ask? Depending on how related it is to the poem, I don't want to diverge too much from the poem right now. These documents would not be read-only, they would be write-only. They're just unregarded, nothing in between. Yeah. Write-only document, yeah. And I told you all when I submitted it, and you have the same reaction. Yep. I kind of think sometimes I'm a generative AI. I'm just a process that takes in a whole bunch of information and then churns out replications of it in terms of text and art. And then I don't really feel so much hate for them. Here's the poem again. Stars never touch, but never wonder. Seas never think what could be under me. I wonder if our lips could ever meet, and think to walk what separates us, the sea. And I'd run all the waters with my hands, though my wrists be so weak after the days I spent writing letters to the sky, to make the clouds less heavy that I could clear away through rainy days that make oceans out of dry lands. And I'd run through your hair with my hands, that I could feel the stars in my fingers. Untitled by Highcallibrr. The rhyming is really cool in this poem. The way we're rhyming not quite, before the end of the lines sometimes. Stars never touch but never wonder. Seas never think about what could be under me. I wonder if our lips could ever meet, and think to walk what separates us, the sea. And it really does make this feel like the end of a section. It gives this poem a lot of pacing, a lot of direction, which I really enjoy. And I'd run all the waters with my hands, sky, my hands, though my wrists be so weak after the days I spent writing letters to the sky, to make the clouds less heavy, that I could clear my way through rainy days. You have these sort of slant rhymes that you can lean into in this poem, and it gives it this choppiness, I think, which makes each line feel connected but also separated, like the poem. And this probably wasn't intentionally mapped out as such, but sometimes our structure contributes to our theme. And this is the best use of structure, in my opinion, when there's this feeling of not quite connectedness in the poem, with these lines that start before they start, end before the end of the line, broken, separated, distant, and the poems about distance. Very cool. I like that a lot. Why I so wanted to do that at some point but didn't know how to. The connected and separated thing disjointed. That's really funny. And I think this is a beautiful thing about art, is that. So like you said, you wanted to do it at some point and you didn't know how to. And yet now you accidentally kind of have come to that. And I think that's really how the artistic process works. Like, we'll think about something and a lot of times it'll end up sinking down into our mind and we'll forget about it. But also, you had that desire, and that kind of structure exists in your mind and has existed since that moment. And even if you couldn't write it at the time, I think those things still kind of stay with you. And they definitely do end up cropping up and proliferating almost accidentally in the future. And it sounds weird, like writing things that you intended to without writing. It sounds almost like weird, spiritual. But I think it does happen. If you write a lot, you'll see these patterns as well of things that I used to want to do that now accidentally show up in my writing, or these skills that I practiced and once had to intentionally implement that now just make themselves apparent in my work. This happens. That's learning. And I think that is the fundamental and most important learning. So I think there's maybe two learnings here. We can learn to do something actively. This would be, I'm going to write a sonnet and I'm going to practice writing an iambic pentameter with whatever number of syllables. And then you have a sort of inactive learning, or internalizing. And this is really like the real learning, the internalization. Because at this point, like, there are people who can just write in a bouncy sonnet-like verse almost automatically without, this is the important thing, without thinking about it. And you do this enough, you read enough, you write enough, and you get these skills. And some things we internalize and some things we just don't. Like, some people are not going to internalize the sound of a sonnet, but some will, and it will influence other things, even their sort of like free verse poetry, their non-sonnet work. And this is, I think, one of the ways we get style. Style is that what we've internalized, the things that we write without trying to write them. That's probably what it is. And so, yeah, in a sense, some of this has been internalized or just accidentally accomplished. But accidentally accomplished doesn't mean it's not learned, because what you've done is you wrote a poem and you probably put these words down and you put them down in a way that felt right for the theme. It just felt right when you wrote this. I know that's probably how you write a lot, Highcallibrr, based on how you've talked about it, but it is those feeling right about it, those gut feelings that are internalization. And writing, just letting the words flow, at least once you have some experience, once you have some internalized skill, can be very useful. I also think this is why when a writer says something like, when a writer says, let the words flow to a beginner, or something along these like useless lines about, oh, just write what's in your heart. I don't think this is helpful advice because this advice requires some of that internalized learning. It requires you to have words and poetry almost just in you, waiting to be brimming out of you. And so, like, the better advice, I think, is to learn the skills, learn the forms, learn verse if that's what you like, but that's not even it. Learn a vocabulary, learn rhymes, learn, like, basics, fundamentals. And once you have this, you accidentally start finding that words flow out of you. And that's being like, that's the best feeling as a writer, I think. I know someone whose practice regimen for wrestling involves playing with their dog. It moves so fast they have to rely primarily on internal instinct and feeling. Yeah, exactly. And we can do this in writing. It's those times when you're sitting there and just turn off the brain and write. And some of my favorite poems are just this. I'll sit down, I'll write. And something will come out. I'm not really trying to do anything particular. This was the poem I've shared on stream before called Adam. And the funny thing is that it really resembles Charles Bukowski. Very Bukowski-esque, if you will. And this makes sense. I have spent some time, as we've been reading a lot of Bukowski, I've also been emulating him sometimes. Because emulating other poets teaches you these skills, the sort of fundamentals that they also have. And so, it was when I went to write a poem and just let myself freely write that I ended up with a really good poem, I think. Sorry, I'm cutting threads off of my shirt that are dangling off. And I ended up with something that, of course, voice crack. Voice is very tired. Of course resembled Bukowski, because that's what I've been reading a lot of, but I wasn't trying to do that. So in some ways I've internalized aspects of his style, and then I'll keep doing that. I'll move on to a different author, I'll move on to Mary Oliver, and I'll probably start writing a lot more things about nature that are more spiritual and about these peaceful, calm ideas while I read her a lot. And this is why you read, because some things you won't internalize. I actually may read Oliver, not like her, although I know I like her already. I just haven't read her work at depth. And there will be some things I internalize. There are some things about Bukowski I don't internalize. I do not write with Bukowski's crassness, his vulgarity, just by reading him, because it's not something I want to write like. An instinct is a slight misnomer because it has to be trained and developed. Yes, to become instinctive. Maybe less of a misnomer than an oxymoron. Yeah, almost a weird contradiction in of itself. And, yeah, the coolest part about writing is internalizing. That's why practice is so important when learning as opposed to theory. Yeah, and, jazz. If I'm reading a chart, if I'm playing the saxophone, and we're going along, the band's cooking, we're going that fast. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's a measure every couple seconds. We're moving. And what the jazz musician does is they follow the changes, the chords that are happening in the music, playing the changes. And if you have to think as a jazz musician about every single change going through, you are going to get behind. You're going to get lost because you are going to be thinking too much. And no one is born able to play the changes. And in fact, you can know the music theory as well. I can know that an E major 7 chord is going to be an E, a G sharp, a B, and a D sharp. That's E major 7. But if I'm playing, there's no way I can keep up with the theory, with the knowledge, in the moment. And the only way to play the changes is to internalize every one of those chords, even all of these different tunes or just the sounds of it. Some people just play a lot of this stuff by that feel, like at that point. And so you see people sitting there grinding out, playing scales, playing arpeggios, playing patterns, playing things in all 12 keys until everything is under the fingers, right? We have expressions for this muscle memory. They stop being mental and we call them physical. And it's not because the muscles remember, but it's so internalized in our mind we don't have to think about it. I like to write without thinking. Delete the whole thing at first, because the first few lines are almost never good. The second is usually a lot better. Then it gets worse after the fourth line. Rewrite the fifth to eighth line, unless I'm going crazy and I've been listening to British rap all day. Then I can write those I dropped my phone poems in 3 days. Yeah. And none of that involves setting out to write a form. It's like I was listening to British rap and my brain is in 30 places at the same time and I'm going crazy and here's a poem. But the more that is internalized about poetry before you ever pick up that pen will really shine through when you're crazy and just writing as a crazy person. And so art almost has these two modes, the practice and the creation. And this is why you have people practicing all the time, all the way into the end of their careers, internalizing new things, because then it is in those accidental moments of genius, which we cannot predict, we cannot create, we can cultivate them though. This is my favorite metaphor for art, is like a garden, cultivating this atmosphere of artisticness. You can water the flower, you can do all the right things that are going to, or let's say a berry bush, and it is going to grow a little bit, and theoretically, it's not going to die as long as you do all the things to take care of it. If you don't do anything, it dies. If you're not doing art, you lose it. And so you water this every day, and some days it grows a little bit, some days it grows a lot, some days a bird comes down and eats parts of it. And then eventually, but not immediately, it starts to show real fruit. And the bush itself is beautiful. There's beauty in like the watering and the process. But it's once you get that fruit that you're really happy. But the fruit is only ready and ripe at its own pace. And then you pick it and it's amazing. And some seasons, let's even get this into like a large scale. Some seasons, let's say you're always doing the same thing. Some seasons the bush grows more, some seasons the bush grows less and gives you more or less fruit. And sometimes you also have to adapt the way you care for it based on the season to keep producing fruit. And that's writing. In general, over time, you have an upward trend. The bush gets bigger. The entire garden gets larger. The things proliferate. But it's only with that constant care. I felt it when I rode horses. After a while, my horse and I got really in tune. We did jumping competitions in like big fields, and I only needed to give her the slightest hint of, yeah. And this happens with people. This happens in lots of things. I mean, a relationship to yourself, that's one way you can internalize learning, but you can internalize learning with another being. People who've like lived for a long time can communicate something with a look. And that's that as well. As someone whose life wasn't exactly a steady upward trend, I love that metaphor. Yeah, and I mean, generally the garden will grow. But it's if you care for it, if, the winter doesn't decimate the whole garden. Sometimes the garden shrinks, dies, But it's like we look at the overall trend, and yeah, sometimes you break your leg and you can't water the garden for 3 months, and you come back and everything is, wretched and dying. This can just refer to life as a whole, not even art. But you water it, and sometimes these plants will come back to life. Plants usually, when they die, like, they can be kind of dead for a while, but you can revive them. Their seeds are all over the place. Sounds like something my therapist would say. Maybe. I could probably be a good therapist, but this is my equivalent. So yeah, to the point of the poem, Caliber, you did this thing accidentally. You made the text communicate your theme, probably in a slightly internalized way. And that's like a really good thing to recognize. You should be happy about that. You should find that fulfilling. And you might not even be able to replicate it if you try again. And that sucks. But that's how it be. The fruit comes when the fruit comes. So this poem paints a slightly different picture of life than that. We begin with never. Just this strong word. Never touch, never wonder, never think. When I see a word like never in a poem, I put a lot of importance into words like this. We say never a lot. Oh, I'm never going to do that. And we, as in people, I personally have phased it almost entirely out of my vocabulary. Because this word is powerful. When you think about what never really means, this means like until the end. The stars will not touch, period. And these are stars, these things that are venerable, lasting so long. Seas never think. It's static. What could be under me? Which is different than kind of the picture we painted of art. But sometimes there are, like, things in life, and it could be a relationship. I don't necessarily agree with that are just impossibilities. And using a word like never really communicates that to me, which is why I think this poem isn't a very hopeful one. Distance, vastness, unchangingness. And I can wonder, I can think about it, I can hope, and I can hope to do impossible things. But this poem, in a sort of pessimistic way, just ends off with a hope. And pessimistic because it's just like I could, I might, whatever. Never think what could be under, comma, me. Okay, that's fair. Me, I wonder. And that works fine either way. This shows, like, me as opposed to the sea, which does give a little bit of hope as I can change. I can hope. But I still find the poem to be talking about hoping against maybe an impossible thing. Running the waters. But this is probably how we must live. Maybe. There are lots of things that look impossible, we think are impossible, and so we go and do them anyway. I mean, after all, we write letters to the sky. And it turns out these things do have an effect. And maybe there's great seas and stars in distance, but we can stop further distance from happening. And maybe that's all this subject, can do right now. But I guess I will say, at least this poem... Okay, I changed my mind. Maybe this poem's hopeful. This poem... At very least, they're not getting further away. The rain clouds are cleared. There are no oceans of dry land. And so for now, the subject can walk and find a way to get closer to this person, and there'll be other oceans, there'll be distances as vast as stars. But maybe that means the interpretation in the end is that they will find a way. I mean, could be speculative. It could be, if all this happens, I would be able to do this, and it's like a distant future kind of impossible thing. Could also be kind of prophetic. This will happen. So I guess the subject probably has some hope. They have hope against very impossible things. And that's good. I like this. It's a hopeful poem. And it's funny that the poem also, Highcallibrr, you did something that at one point you thought you were unable to do, writing in this way, which has then been internalized and sort of pierced through and understood and now done. Which means the poem almost serves to prove that in the moment what looks impossible is not so impossible in the long run. I guess the stars look very small at the end of the poem, is how I would say it. At first they never touch, they never wonder. There's these great distances, these things that are completely out of scope. And yet, by the end of this, by the time the subject meets their lover, their lips meet, the stars won't seem so big and scary after all, and they'll just be a memory felt in the fingers, in the hair. And that's cool. Change, growth, progress, love, people. Any questions? Of any kind, for me, comments. Questions, comments for Highcallibrr, questions, comments for me. You liked it? Yeah. Do I have a favorite part? Y'all like to ask me this sometimes. And I do like to give my favorite lines of things. For me, it has to be days spent writing letters to the sky. I relate to, or at least this evokes a feeling in me. This evokes a connection in the writing, the write-only things. Dylan. No. You can do whatever you want. You can leave class, Dylan. Y'all can walk out of class whenever you want. You like the melancholy voice. Yeah, and I think this is contributed by a lot of these things we associate with sadness. The seas, the blue, the distance, the being separated. Walking even is slow. The sea being weak. Rain clouds. The interesting, though, is that I think it's a poem that looks toward the future. Which puts it in an interesting intersection. I think sometimes melancholy, we think of the past or the place we are. So you've been reading poetry from Tolkien all day long. That's cool. Yesterday, I was in a coffee shop, and they have some TVs, and they play random movies on them sometimes, and it's one of the Lord of the Rings movies, and I was digging that, so now I want to read the books, because I haven't read the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit. You skip the songs and poems in Lord of the Rings? Well, maybe you can return to them now that you know more about poetry. Dylan, how's Neruda? We just read him sometimes. At the start of today's stream, we read a Kerouac poem. I don't read him that much. But I was reading Kant in the coffee shop. Should buy a Neruda book? You could. Buying poetry collections is nice. Also, I would encourage you, I think as I talked about a few streams ago, buying living authors is very good as well. Buying from people who are alive, who will see that money, who will be supported. You know, we talk about how AI is like stealing people's jobs or whatever. Then go support someone who's like threatened by that. If that's what you feel strongly about, go support fucking art. You know? You vote with your dollar in a way. I gotta translate a poem from one of my favorite writers so I can read it. Oh, I would love that. And JKR is an exception. IMO. Yeah. That's fair. So yeah, like support living authors who you want to support financially. And the good thing is, you know, these people are actively around. Like, the other best thing about buying living author, you can buy their work. Okay, this is crazy. Buy their work, read their work, enjoy their work if you enjoy your work, and then you can message them. If you read living authors, you can tell them how much you liked their work, and they will love you so much. Nothing makes the day of a writer or an artist like someone genuinely reaching out and having thoughtful praise or even feedback. You know, it's just shut up. Like this. Thank you, Stylish Fail. I appreciate the bits. Like that in a way. I'm a living artist. But I do appreciate it. Thank you. Y'all do not need to money. Thank you. Yes, supporting artists is great. Now I look like I'm that's funny. Okay. I think we're done with the poem. If no one has other questions or comments about it. I really like it. Do you want any feedback on it? Callie, do you have any questions? Or, because I know sometimes you just don't edit your poems and you just want to share them, and that's fine too. But sometimes I feel like we do analysis of yours, and then we're just like, we do the analysis and then stop because, I don't know. Your choice, though. And sometimes I feel like I'm like cutting you short. Like I want to talk more about your work. I do. I like your work. Your work is great. I loved how you kept the imagery on theme. Yeah. So this is like a big thing that I really think is effective about the poem. Water, rain, seas, clouds. The only thing that's like different is the stars. But I do think that's okay. Like stars really speak to different distance. I wonder how this poem would do if it was islands instead of stars. Because then you talk about like making oceans out of dry lands, and you can think about this like coming to connection, but also complete stagnance and not moving in relation to each other generally. This could be cool. That would make it like fully water themed. But I like the stars in their own way. Certainly doesn't work to like at that point feel the islands in your fingers and their hair. So stars are cool too. And we talk about people as stars a lot, as twinkling, distant, beautiful things. Oh, you shared the poem in the thing. Cool. I will look at it later, probably. Yeah, yeah. And Highcallibrr, you said you're gonna go hide now. That's okay. If you don't have any other stuff, and if no one else has other thoughts on this, then that'll be that. I don't really have more thoughts immediately. Had some discussions about some things, some more useful than others. Doing the Grass says, thank you for the poem, Caliber. Yes, thank you. I also thank you. Really excellent. Let's read it. An untitled work by Highcallibrr. Stars never touch, but never wonder. Seas never think what could be under. Me? I wonder if our lips could ever meet. And think to walk what separates us. The sea. And I'd run all the waters with my hands, though my wrists be so weak after the days I spent writing letters to the sky. To make the clouds less heavy, that I could clear away through rainy days that makes oceans out of dry lands. And I'd run through your hair with my hands, that I could feel the stars in my fingertips. An untitled work by Highcallibrr. Snaps for you. Thank you so much for submitting. Really excellent, really lovely. Appreciate it greatly. I always enjoy getting poems from you. I like them. Sometimes they're wild and weird. This one I think is like really quite effective and really quite powerful. I'm a fan.
Thank you for watching. I encourage you to check out the rest of the series, follow if you enjoyed, and stop by Twitch if you want to share your own work. See you there.